All right, so here we are, day 128. This is almost the last day of the year, and this is the 126th day of this commemoration. Trucking right along, and this is the second to last meditation that was included in Chapter 8 of Being and Learning. And Chapter 8, Being and Learning, is meditative thinking. And tomorrow I'll say something about how the last meditation included in this chapter was just abruptly cut off, and how the ordering of the chapters kind of got a little funky. But this is the second to last it's the last full meditation, I should say. And as I wrote about in my commentary in response to this writing, there's really a couple of important things happening in this particular meditation. The picking up of this idea, this category, rather, of proceeding without why. So if you think of someone who asks a question, well, why is this the case, or why is that the case? That question, why, is always seeking reasons or answers. So Lao Tzu teaches us that we have to proceed without why. There are really perhaps a couple of ways to think about that. Proceeding without why is to not seek answers, right? And just to be, and in that sense, it's also to be moved along and to be a sort of passive. So meditative thinking is guided by this proceeding without why, insofar as it's just it's a very trusting, almost faith-based way of thinking, in which you just entrust yourself to the process. So that's one important part of this meditation. The other one are two quotations from Hannah Arendt that give some real philosophical quality to that category. So let me proceed then. We recall Arendt's commentary on the disruptive and estranging character of thinking, when she said, "Thinking is out of order because the quest for meaning produces no end result that will survive the activity of thinking, that will make sense after the activity has come to its end." End quote. The estranging character of meditative thinking appears from the inconclusive nature of this practice that is the essence of the sage's guiding. It appears to produce nothing, in the same way as Heidegger indicates the comportment of the sage, the conduct of the teacher, quote, often produces the impression that we're really learning nothing from him, if by learning we now automatically understand merely the procurement of useful information, unquote, from Heidegger, Lecture 1 from What is Called Thinking. As we have said, meditative thinking and the production of meaning through the creative performance of poetic dialogue appears useless from the perspective of calculative thinking. And thus we recognize the incommensurability of the meditative and calculative forms of thinking. Our interest here, however, is taken up with the mapping of this path of silence that is wandered without why. We are attempting to show how this purposeful wandering, learning, is a making that is disruptive, estranging, and out of order in the epoch of unilateralism, when the calculative and the quantitative remain hegemonic. One of the key moments in this disruption occurs with the shattering of the expectations that the apprentice arrives with, expectations that are projected from the calculative perspective. The disruption of the dominant expectation that learning is essentially a consumptive practice carried out by the solitary accumulator, a knowledge consumer, is shattered the moment the learner is enjoined intersubjectively in poetic dialogue. This engagement is a productive event, not a consumptive one, and the outcome produced are immeasurable phenomena that fall under the broad category of meaningfulness, meaning, community, freedom, love, peace, plurality, friendship. These are the outcomes, the meaning-producing event of learning that is inconclusive poetic dialogue. As Arendt suggests, quote, "It is obvious that this kind of dialogue, which doesn't need a conclusion in order to be meaningful, is most appropriate for and most frequently shared by friends. Friendship, to a large extent, indeed consists of this kind of talking about something that friends have in common. By talking about what is between them, it becomes even more common to them." End quote, from Life of the Mind, Volume 1, Thinking. The shelter of freedom and peace, the mindful community, is built with the production of meaning that proceeds without why. To proceed without why is to be enjoined in the inconclusive dialogue that is experiential philosophy. To proceed without why is to heed the beckoning of language that addresses us as mortals gathered in the cultivation of community that is immortal, the building and maintenance of a freedom and a peace that will outlive those who abide in it. For learning to proceed without why, it must be arranged and directed by one who remains steadfast in his devotion to the production of meaning, to the inconclusive, to the poetic performance that is furthest away from the demands of correctness and incorrectness. To remain steadfastly removed and far from these demands is to walk the path of silence. To remain on this path is to be seized by wonder. The community seized by wonder is the mindful one. To be seized by wonder is to have conscientización, the dialogic conscience that is the outcome of meditative thinking. Conscientización is the pathos of compassion. To be seized by wonder is to endure the compassion of caring, of being with, of letting go of the desire to know conclusively, and to remain open to the incomplete and unfinished. But to remain open and receptive to the twofold processual unfolding of being, this process of an concealment, appearance, hiding, that conserves freedom in the possibility that is the not yet, all this is to become active in this process. With learning, we take the leap into the twofold and dwell in the nearness of the Tao, becoming the neighbor of being. We take up this abode and endure the compassion of caring to become actively involved in the production of a community of peace and freedom. Mindfulness is the action of an experiential philosophy that takes the risk to let go and to be released into the cultivation of community, into the enjoyment of friendship. Conscientización is thus the outcome of those devoted to dialogue. And that's how it ends this 19th day of June, Juneteenth, Emancipation Day in Texas. Check out the blog, Duarte, Being and Learning, and look for this date, June 19th, for some commentary and context.